I can't be beat. I get no rest. I can't sleep. Heart of a champion. I can't be beat.
Welcome back to Rhymes That Resonate podcast, where we explore how guests blend action, rhymes, and self. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Really helps the channel grow. We're out here trying to grow. I want to invite you all to this conversation with a lifelong friend of mine, Andrew Gomez, also known as A.Go, longtime music producer, and just again, a really good friend. A.Go, please introduce yourself, tell the people about you, your journey, and we'll get into some questions about some of the music that you chose.
Cool. Yeah, man. First off, appreciate you having me here, man. It's an honor. Like I was telling you just beforehand, super inspiring. See people you grow up with, do progress and do big things and want to do bigger things, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I'm super inspired by just being around people that are doing things like this. So shout out to you first of all. But yeah, that being said, go by A.Go. Man, I'm gonna have to just do the super short version. But yeah, I'm a music producer, songwriter. I'm here in New York City. I've been here for about 5 years now. I'm from California. I moved to New York about 5 years ago to pursue music. I would say roughly within the last, since I've been in New York, the ball has kind of really just kind of been rolling, snowballing in a sense. Yeah. And I would say roughly in the last 2-3 years, finally getting to a place, well, it's never finally, but I would say getting to a place where I'm just working with more and more artists at a much more, I would say, professional level. And that's always been the goal, to make music with professionals and people, like-minded individuals. So that's basically it. I mean, I've been doing music all my life. It's been a long journey. Like I said, that can be a whole podcast episode in itself. But yeah, man, I just, been grinding ever since, essentially. Had the ups and downs. Been in the music, been out of the music, inspired, uninspired, everything in between. So that in itself has been a journey, but which has all led me to being here, essentially. So yeah, music producer, just love music in general, love being around music. I love being around musicians. I love being around artists, and I love being around creatives. It's not always about music either. So that's basically me in a nutshell. But yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to have you, brother. I know we've over the years we've tried creating together, and we have created together. And we've created some really dope things. In fact, the intro to the podcast was produced by A.Go. And so that's, it's a real honor to be able to have you on, and be able to, show those who are viewing, those followers, those listeners, the subscribers, a different side of not only those who I'm interviewing, right, but those who have a connection to the music in a more intimate way than, just consuming it, right, because you're in it. And I think it's really dope, right? You said 5 years ago, you moved out to pursue music. Like, you're literally on the path of pursuing your dreams, living your dreams, and not everybody is bold enough, strong enough, has enough fortitude to go do that, man. So I commend you. And again, just an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's been a journey, but you learn to life is a journey. So
isn't it?
So I mean, I figure you might as well enjoy it, because it's not going to be ending, and when it does end, it ends. So,
and you got to have something to show for it, and not even show for it, but hopefully leave a legacy, hopefully leave something behind that people can 100%. Use. And so I think, with some of the songs that, and in fact, one of the songs specifically that you produce, definitely done that. But I think you work with artists who might be into that kind of game, but we'll get to that later. Right. The first song that you brought to my attention was "Everything I Am" by Kanye West. Why that song? What made you pick that song? And before answering that, as a longtime producer, where does Kanye sit on your creator, rapper, producer list? And is he even on the list?
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, he's definitely on the list. That's funny because I have I actually did it's in my computer. Like I did a video, like a tier list of producers or whatever. It's like some little content idea I had. And no, Kanye is definitely on the list. I mean, as far as where he's on there, he's not like he's definitely top 10. So I'll leave it. Basically, that's what's important. But
top 10.
He's I mean, Kanye in general has been a major influence from artistic and production for sure. So yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, he's definitely top 10. It's hard for me to like curate that list because it kind of is always evolving. But he's definitely inspiring in terms of like what he has to say and how he has to say it and what sounds he uses. So for me as a producer, he's like definitely a direct inspiration, but also for me getting into like more artistic type stuff where like, for example, I'm actually doing stuff behind the mic, rapping, singing, so on, writing. He's been a big inspiration in that because obviously he's wearing all hats. So yeah, in terms of where he sits, he's at a very high spot. Yeah, he's up there with, you know, some of the greats, some of my favorites. I can go down a whole list of that. But
I mean, why not, man? I mean, we got Pharrell on there. I mean, Timbaland, what's up?
For sure, top 10. I mean, number one always kind of I'm gonna have to say Quincy Jones just as a umbrella of work. So Quincy Jones for sure, number one. But if I'm kind of sticking to my era, Neptunes, I would say. So number one, Neptunes, Pharrell and Chad. That's those two single-handedly got me into beats. Specifically, like when I heard their beats, I'm like, yo, what are these? They always reminded me of like video games. Like the beats were like electronic but told a story. So it's like early 2000s when like keyboards and stuff were still coming to fruition and synthesizers, whatever. Yeah, Timbaland. What does it go? Neptunes. Let's say I'm no order then.
Okay, no order. Fair.
Neptunes, Kanye. I'm gonna have to give a lot of credit to Lil Jon. I know that, might sound a little weird, but maybe it does make sense because you kind of grew up with me.
Shout out to Lil Jon.
Shout out Northern California. Shout out Lil Jon. But remember that whole sound, you know, hyphy, Southern crunk, whatever. Lil Jon for sure. Like he's like top 5 for me. Like his whole little run and just what the mark he made on rap, of course, but I would just say pop music. Feel like, you know, like it's a big influence. So he's definitely up there. Of course, the obvious ones like Dre, Timbaland, you know, Scott Storch. I think I said that already. Who's another one? A big one, I would say Bangladesh. I like a lot for his
nice.
I like the bops, the anthems. Rick Rubin definitely up there. Just being able to,
solid.
in terms of being able to hit every genre, to work with System of a Down, who's like heavy metal, and then Johnny Cash, and then Eminem. It's crazy, you know. Like
people don't give enough credit to Eminem for his production skills.
Eminem, production. I mean, he's good. Yeah, I don't know if I would put him on the GOAT status. I don't mean to laugh at that.
Right, he's not, obviously that's not what he's known for.
Yeah, some of his beats make me laugh. But that's another story. Like they're very dark, very like vampire. Like I'm about to murder this beat, you know, which in most cases he does.
In most cases he does.
Yeah, but anyways, what were we talking about? Producers, a lot of the new cats too. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm inspired by Metro, you know, the whole 9. Who else we forgetting? Some big ones. Northern California, Rick Rock.
I was gonna say Rick Rock beat, fella.
Rick Rock, he every time I leave a comment on his IG, he responds to it. So shout out. That's a big thing, you know. Shout out.
Shout out to Rick Rock.
West Coast. I mean, a big West Coast influences for sure. Dre. I would also say DJ Quick. Super underrated. He did so much work for Dre, and of course Dre, he knows Dre, so he just gets a lot of the credit. Man. Battle Cat. I mean, it's like like West Coast, like yeah, I'm
Good.
really.
Hey, my man's on the East Coast, but don't forget where he's from. I love it.
Oh yeah, man, I forgot where I'm at.
Hey, love it.
But yeah, man. I mean, as far as East Coast, I mean, what Alchemist? I mean, he's
Top
fire,
tier. Yeah.
top tier. You know who else? Heat Makers.
No.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Hit Boy.
Hit Boy. He's in West. He's L.A.
Right. I didn't hear his name, so I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
I love Hit Boy. Yeah, Hit
Yeah.
Boy. Remember, Hit Boy did a project with Alchemist, I believe.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, no, I really like what Hit Boy's doing, by the way.
No.
And I don't know if you know the story, but his dad was just got out of prison or something. I don't know if he just got out or recently, or are you familiar with this? Like his dad's a rapper.
So yeah, something like that. And him and Alchemist did a project for
yeah. So Hit Boy's dope. I really like what he's done with Drake and everyone. But his dad is Hit. What is it? Hitman? Hit Boy. His dad's a rapper. Big Hit. Big Hit.
Big Hit. Okay.
He's dope though. I'm not gonna lie. He's older, of course.
Yeah.
But he's dope. Anyways, it's dope what he's doing because Hit Boy has his dad. He's producing for his dad, which is fire. I'm not gonna lie. Check him out. And then he's also, I know his sister is a rapper too, and something like Princess Hit or something. I don't know. They're all like intertwined, but it's
there's
cool.
A naming convention there. Got it.
You know, so it's pretty cool. Like to see. But yeah, Hit Boy's dope. Shout out Hit Boy.
That's what's up, man. Hey, it's funny, right? Because asking a producer about his producer list, this is what we got, right? So refocusing on the rhymes that resonate, you picked Kanye West, Everything I'm Not, maybe Everything I Am. Why that song?
I mean, yeah, that song's pretty. I guess you can say it's deep, maybe, but pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm not like one of those guys that super analyzes things, and like, if anything, I'm really not hearing the lyrics until like a few listens in.
Naturally, as a producer, right? Like,
it takes a while. But just I mean, the title really does a great job of describing exactly, and that's why I picked that song. It's hard to, by the way, it's hard to pick 3 songs, like, like it's like for me, I mean, that's like very difficult because constantly hearing songs that are inspiring. But if I had to kind of zoom all the way out and just think of a very general rules or things that I live by, that song definitely always makes, per your guidelines, that song makes a daily occurrence in my life. Basically, it's straightforward. It's all the things that I don't go through essentially make me who I am, and it's not about, and I'm not interested in taking a path that wasn't cut out for me. So it's really just a matter of staying true to yourself and staying on the path that you feel is most deserving for your time. That's how I interpret it. Life will constantly find a way in all of our lives. This is not even just a music thing. It's a life thing. But life will always find a way to push you and toggle you this way, toggle you that way. And then there'll be moments of pure happiness where you are on a straight path, and then life again will find a way to move you, push you down, so on and so forth. And it's really important to, it's very cliche, of course, stay true, stay on the path. But that's pretty much been a big thing for me, especially on this path of pursuing music. There has to be a level of commitment and focus. And so for me, especially, I've had many moments and still have many moments where I feel like I'm being toggled or pushed or being influenced or by others, or even sometimes by myself, from not staying focused, essentially. So that's why I picked that song. Kanye in general, is, like I was saying earlier, is big influence going back to College Dropout. But even though that was the first album I heard back in, I think high school. For me, the game changer for me was Late Registration, which was the second album he did. And to me, College Dropout was great. I'm not gonna take away from that. But Late Registration to me was a combination of really, really insightful lyrics and amazing production, like top of the line, over the top orchestral, live instrumentation, all this stuff. He really went over the top. And the next one was I can't remember the name now, but Graduation, which is where Everything I Am. That's where he started becoming the Kanye, I guess you can say, that we know now. I think that's why the message means a little bit more, because we, in hindsight, know what Kanye is like now based on the way he portrays himself, and we all kind of know, as hip hop, fans know what he was like 10 years ago. He was much more timid, right? And but he was already talking about, well, we can say 15 years ago, because
I was gonna say like 20 years ago.
Years ago. Yeah, years ago. But when that song came out, he was already, like I said, becoming the Kanye we know now. But it's more impactful because he was already talking about like something. Now he's kind of the opposite, where he's just very outspoken and just will speak whatever it is. But he was already speaking about being influenced at a very early time in his career. And essentially that everything, I'm not, makes me everything I am. And I'm not willing, and I'm not interested in, partaking to what you think is best for me.
Yeah.
That's the message right there.
Yeah. So there's a level of confidence and commitment, like you said, that you have to have. And, like just already you shared that you moved from, and, you moved from like Northern California, Sacramento area down to LA, right? And from LA, you moved to the East Coast, and you kind of, I don't want to say chasing, right? I don't think you were pursuing, right, your own path, especially as it relates to music. And like you said, there's ups, downs, left, rights, times you're on, times you're off, whatnot. But it's almost like that song is exactly what you're saying. Like, I'm not going to be influenced away from this thing, right, that you're pursuing, it being a successful music career. And, I look over the course of 20 years, bro. And, I can only imagine how difficult it was to look at those decisions and say, I'm going to do this, right? Can you tell me a little bit about, or tell us all a little bit about how, like, making those decisions, like some of the thoughts you were having, especially when, you moved to New York and then you get hit by COVID and you're still, trying to pursue this goal. Like, how does all that play in and relate to this song?
Yeah, I mean, COVID's pretty much for me what pushed me into doing music more. So for me, it was not many options we had in that time, right? But for me, I would say it was beneficial because I was able to fully focus on music. And essentially in that time, I met with a lot of key artists that I would say have been pretty influential to this day for me. So there was a lot of key relationships and a lot of progress made. Essentially just dealing with what we all had to deal with. But for me, it was, I didn't have any choices, essentially. I had I was a casualty of losing my job. So you couldn't even work for that short amount of time. You couldn't even, unless you had like an essential job or something, like a certain job. But I just knew, I'm like, okay, this is the time I need to focus on music, because there's really not much else to do. And that's when apps and TikTok and things like that were starting to blow up. Boise, which is what I was using.
I remember that.
No longer with us, RIP.
Right.
But eventually it was a TikTok Junior. And that really blew up during COVID because, again, we were all home. Most people, actually a lot of people during COVID were exploring a lot of their artistic sides. And like so many people would hit me up and, were interested in making a song, just for fun, basically, nothing crazy. But just like how I record myself at home, like basic stuff. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people were exploring that. But yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question exactly?
Well, just, the fact that, I think that was a great answer. I was basically asking, as we as you specifically are making these decisions to, have that level of commitment and confidence in, something unseen, essentially faith, how that song plays into those decisions of, like you said, just going after it and believing in yourself about it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, since I've been in New York, I've always felt like my back has been against the wall, in the sense that I came out here for a reason. And, for me, there's really no, I don't really have many options. I don't have many outlets out here in terms of like people I can fall back on, or like family I can stay with, or things like, I mean, now I have a lot of good friends, don't get me wrong. So things have changed for me. But for a few years here, like I really was on my own, with no really goal other than just to meet other musicians and to start kind of building relationships, building clients, if you will.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I don't want to, it was kind of out of necessity.
Yeah.
But that's why I came out here, to kind of put myself in that position. I guess you could say that's a risk in a sense. That's like the risk portion of moving out here, because I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that it was not going to be easy. I did not expect COVID, so that was completely.
Yeah. I don't think many of us did.
That one didn't see coming.
Yeah.
But that definitely changed the course of, I would say, where I'm at now. It slowed things down. It slowed things down for everyone, and I always knew what I wanted to do, because, like I said, I came out here to do music. But for me, like, it slowed it down enough for me to like, okay, no one's doing anything. Everyone's at home. Literally, everyone's at home. This is the time right now where you can start going on your phone, building relationships, hitting people up, whoever. And basically, that's kind of been my method since. Just randomly hitting people up, not randomly, but like people that I would want to work with.
Yeah.
And the success rate of that is not great overall, but that's okay, because the ones that do land feel more authentic and as if they were meant to land.
Yeah.
So, I was doing a lot more of that during COVID, I guess you can say. Really.
Yeah, but you've always been a hustler, man. Like as long as I've known you, you've always tried to figure out ways to make things happen, make things connect. And I like what you said is, you put yourself in a position to like have those safeties removed, right? The risk was a risk, but it was a calculated risk. You knew what you were getting into. And despite all of the things that could go wrong and that most people will look at and say, I don't want to take that risk, you said, this is it. This is what I'm trying to go for. I'm not going to, get pushed off my spot. And I think that's really, really powerful, man. I commend you for it.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I never actually thought about that until I just said that right now. But yeah, that's actually, I'm learning things about myself as I'm talking.
There we go.
You're right. Taking off the safety nets. I think that's a perfect kind of better way to word it. That's exactly what I meant. Like intentionally, it's calculated risk. Yeah. I'm a big believer in that. Because like it's exactly that. It's a risk, which at some point most people should make in their life, but it's calculated, meaning like you're not just throwing yourself. Some people can do that, and I'm not that person. I don't think I'm a risk taker, even, believe it or not. But when you throw in that calculated portion, I think that's why I'm able to make the moves I make. And and even now, I mean, things are not rainbows and shines, sunshine right now. I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, I'm not miserable, but like it's still like I'm still looking up, I'm still like, it's like the mountain of life. I'm still like looking at all the different artists and outlets and genres I want to be involved in, and just like top tier, all the artists we look up to. I see myself in these rooms with these people. I don't doubt that. But I'm looking at it, like I know I can hang, luckily I can say that now. But like I just find myself looking up, and it's the journey of life, I think for me the biggest focus comes from, well, I've said this many times, I don't know if I've ever told you, but basically it's real simple. the focus comes from, I love music. I love sound before music. I love sound. That's, I think, where I fell in love with first as a baby or whatever. But long story short, fell in love with music at an early age. Been doing music since I know you. Making beats since, back in the neighborhood, making songs. It's been a long time. Basically, none of this has gotten boring, which is great, right?
It's important,
which is really like mind blowing to me. Like, bruh, like, think of something you've been doing for 30 years and it hasn't gotten boring yet. Like, there's not gonna be many things on that list that you can name that you've been doing your entire life that are still not only satisfying for you, but get you like on a natural high even. Maybe exercise and things you can say like that, right? Falling in love, whatever. Things like that. Things that don't cost money, I guess.
Yeah.
But basically, long story short, the focus comes from me that I know this is what I love. I know this is what I love doing. Therefore, I know this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. So I've had this sense of calmness. Actually, this calmness really came during COVID when I've had a lot of time to think and all that. So this is all new to me. This is not like something I've been like enlightened with 20 years ago. Like, I know I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I can honestly say that. Cool. So what's the rush? That's what I tell myself. That's what I tell myself. I'm not even halfway in my lifespan, right? And the strides I'm making lately have been progress for me. So ultimately, in terms of like, if I zoom out, or if you zoom out from where you are in life, you realize that you're just, it's like the universe, right? You're just one speck of such a larger portion of what's to come. And that's where the focus comes from. To know that I have a lot of time. That's basically it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah. No, and so
like I have an insane focus where I want to get things done. But I have been blessed with sort of a calmness in the last few years because I'm a stressed person in general. Stressed about a lot. But there has been like a sense of calmness where it's like, you know what? Maybe I'm not where I want to be. But is anyone ever really where they want to be? Because even when you get there, that's a bar. But even when you get but even when you get there, the goalpost gets moved. And then you're right. And that's what keeps us, most of us, I should say. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in our lives that get beaten down by that.
Yeah.
You see that. Bro, I leave my apartment. I'm in New York. I'm in Harlem.
Yeah.
As soon as I leave my door, I see people on the sidewalk. Some I recognize, some I've seen for weeks, months. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about like examples of like being aware and conscious, but the moment we go outside and experience life, we see so many examples of the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's also what keeps me focused, that to tie it all back.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, right? Because again, I mentioned, firstly, there's so much in that answer that I think really I could just like pick apart and say like this is really dope and I want to highlight it. But a lot of people do get beat up by the goalposts being moved, or putting enough effort into where they think the goalpost is, and realizing that wasn't enough effort. And if you recall, I mentioned that like the intro to this podcast is Heart of a Champion, produced by A.Go, produced by you. And you did the intro. You did the intro. This is 2015, right? This is almost a decade ago.
That's so crazy.
It is crazy, right? Because I could remember like exactly where it was when it was produced. But in any case,
that's like our quote unquote newer stuff.
Yeah. we got to change that. Ephraim, by the way, said what's up, and he said you're the only one who can get the 16 bars from him. So just know we're working on the reunion album, right? We got to get JR the Kid.
That's an ongoing project. That's just that's never gonna end until one of us is not here.
Nah, it's not gonna end, brother. But
it's never gonna. I mean, going after that. So
That's it, right? But on the intro, you said pretty much the same thing. You know, you got to think about it. You know, rewind 10 years, you said there's only a select few of us who keep going, who don't quit, you know, and those are the few with the heart of a champion. You know what I mean? And I think it's wild because, you know, I think when you mention, you know, 30 years of doing music and you're still like, this is who I am, right? I'm not all of that, but I am this, and this is what it looks like, right? You're aligned with yourself, and that's where that calmness comes in, right? You're aligned with your beliefs of who you are and what you're meant to be in this world, and you're not rushed to be something else. You're not comparing yourself to any of those people on the list that you mentioned, right? You're not pressed by that, and I think there's such a beauty in that authentic recognition of who you are, where you are, and the fact that you're not gonna give up pursuing your dreams and your goals, man. So I just, again, I'm super proud of you, man. And I, to that point, you know, I started, you know, writing rhymes years ago, and you know, I think I probably stop. I only write when I have like a beat that I'm really about to crush, right? But I recognize that creating things, especially around creating things with words, you know, hence this podcast, is something that just doesn't get old to me. Right? It may come in different venues, different formats, but I feel good. I feel right. I feel aligned. And so I think that's really dope that, you know, even as we grow, it looks different, feels different. We're still going towards those things that bring us genuine joy, man. And so, you know, I'm glad we're still pursuing it because not everybody has the heart of a champion.
Segue. Wow, you're right. Because I mean, damn, like we're blessed. We're blessed just on that.
Yeah.
Just on the fact of having something to look forward to doing. Like whoever's listening, like if you enjoy something and it keeps you going and you want to get better at it, just that, bro, like be proud of yourself. Like, because I'm just saying that because I would have loved to hear that when I was a kid. Like, like believe it or not, I didn't grow up in a, you know, supportive environment. And like basically I'm saying I don't have life figured out. I don't think any of us do. We have a long way to go. But one thing I've learned is that, man, just having something to look forward to and enjoy in life that's like free, that like innate, that's in you already, that's a blessing. I mean, first of all, a lot of people don't even a lot of people that are born with it lose it or just get distracted in life. Two, other people don't even necessarily have it or are interested in finding it
or connect with it.
Just life pulls you in so many directions. What I was saying earlier. So to just have something that you're and to be healthy and all those things and be alive and breathing like that. And I have to say that out loud sometimes because I'm telling myself that. Like,
man,
you are blessed. Like, you know, we know what's going on around the world. And we know it's not gonna stop. So at the end of the day, just to be like have something to give you some level of happiness for even maybe that brief amount of time that you're doing it, you should be very thankful. Because I know I am. I'm thankful all the time. Like I'm like, wow, how am I still into this? You know, like it's not old.
Like, well, so, you know, and just to add,
that's like, you know what I mean? Like whoever's out there hearing this, like you should like that's half the battle. Really, like I feel like half the battle in life is just figuring out what you enjoy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add one piece to that. Right, is being you know recognizing that there is something that you enjoy that that aligns with you, but the other part is you know really doing it right, whether or not it's you know bringing you money, fame, fortune, what all those different things, whatever. That's all superfluous, right? Like, are you doing it? Because if you're doing it and it's bringing you that joy, then you know you're in the upper echelon of humans living in this world and on this plane of reality. And so I really appreciate you bringing that. And like you said, for anybody listening who doesn't get to hear that, hey man, go pursue it. You know, like you deserve it. You as a human deserve to pursue the things you're passionate about. But we were gonna segue and then we segued back, and so we're gonna go ahead and take a moment to make a hard left and say, or I guess the hard right, and say, "Get There" by Lamarco. And I want you to like set the tone for us, right? But I'll preface this by saying this song was created sometime during the pandemic, right? And so there was a lot of people feeling a lot of things, and like you said, you were digging in and saying like, I'm gonna pursue this music, and please take it from there.
Yeah, man. So the song's called "Get There." It's one of my I would say, definitely personal favorites. I mean, for many reasons, the message in itself is probably the most impactful. But there's a backstory. I mean, long story short, Lamarco. So shout out Lamarco Smith.
Shout out Lamarco Smith, yeah.
Which is ironic because I met you in high school, and Sacramento. Shout out Sacramento, California. Grew up in Sac, where I met Mr. Erdami, and I also met Lamarco. So funny enough, he was also in the same high school as us, but our cliques were separated basically.
Yeah.
But I met, Lamarco, long time friend, same, music singer. We've been working together since high school, basically. He's in New York also. We had, we've done just numerous songs, like a lot. But during the pandemic, we did 2 projects. So we actually did an EP almost a month into the pandemic. So pretty quick. We were moving. Like once the pandemic started, we're like, bro, there's nothing to do. Like, let's just make some songs. And we just made a little project, put it on a month. Get There came out about a year later. That was a more focused album with more of a story, kind of more of a kind of like a more message that kind of flows from the album.
Like a theme?
There you go. A theme, exactly. It's called No Friends. That came out in 2021, I believe. I want to say 2021. Which Get There is, I guess you can say one of the singles because we did a music video for it, or he did a music video for it. But yeah, it's basically one of the ending songs on there. I produced, by the way, No Friends. Check that out. Hopefully all my links and stuff will post here at some point. I got links to all my music, but No Friends, the album specifically with Get There, which is the song Mr. Erdami's talking about. I produced that whole album. Just want to point that out. But
shout out to A.Go.
Yep. Produced it, recorded it. I'm real proud about that project because it's fire, basically. But Get There was so I know the backstory. I don't know the whole the details, but I know the general backstory. That song does have a meaningful backstory for me because, long story short, I don't know where the song came in regards to the album. I don't know if it came towards the end. I want to say it came towards the end. Not 100% sure. That track, that beat, I had made probably, I want to say a few weeks prior. Okay, so generally when I'm making beats or I'm doing like some kind of song idea, generally the idea is already in my head and I kind of want to just get it out. Sometimes I'll finish it right then and there. Sometimes I'll come back to it next day. Sometimes I'll come back to it the next year. One thing I've learned through Lamarco, actually, shout out Lamarco again, because he used to always get mad at me for not saving my projects. I would just constantly make beats in high school. Just what I'll make like bangers, and just not save it. And so
and then lose it. Hey, what happened to that beat, man? Oh man, I deleted it.
I was trash, bro. Sorry. And that's another message. That's another message for anyone out there. Like, one man's trash, another man's treasure. Like at the end of the day, like you gotta really take confidence in what you're doing, and like even though you may not think it's good, like be open to having others think it's good. Don't.
What? Be open to others thinking it's good.
Because if I'm deleting my own stuff constantly, and I'm not even letting others have the opportunity to hear it, I'm almost doing them a disservice too, because that's something they could have latched onto and again, this is something Lamarco taught me like early on. Like, stop deleting your stuff. And it's true. Like, even now, like, I'll just save everything. Sometimes I won't ever come back to it, but it's just the idea of having it imprinted. You did what you had to do. You move on from it. That's okay. But to just get rid of it is almost maybe being disingenuous to yourself almost. That's kind of
what?
So
what?
When it comes to
Hey,
art,
wait a minute. You're throwing some bars out here. Wait a minute. So you're saying, hold on, because okay, so look, I know we're gonna talk about Get There. We're gonna spend some time on Get There.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, I think especially having created so much, you know, I understand where you're coming from, right? And you know, at the beginning of this call before we recorded, I was talking about how it's just so fun creating with you and how I miss creating with you. You know, because we have the same I think approach to things, which is like a bit of a perfectionist because we know what we like, we know what quality is, or we have an idea of what quality is. And if something doesn't meet our own standards of that, we also have that same downfall of saying that it doesn't need to go out there. And so I've, you know, in my career of, you know, creating, especially music, probably well over, you know, 300 songs, you know, 400, 500, 600 recorded verses. I don't know. I did about 200 and something while I was deployed in my first deployment. And I have about maybe 7 songs that I can find at any given point in time. And a lot of it was, like you said, like you create it and then you're like, I heard, you know, I stuttered here, or I heard a pop here, right. Throw it away. It's trash. Right. And, you know, right. So like with this podcast, like I told you, like I record and like, unless there's like something really wild, I don't edit and I just post it. Right. For that exact reason is I've robbed people who could benefit from something I'm doing. I've robbed so many people from that opportunity. And I robbed myself from the opportunity to get better outside of my own head because of my own, you know, unrealistic standards of what I should be able to produce at the level I'm at, right? So I just wanted to take a moment to just shout out that, you know, giving others the opportunity to think it's good is huge. Be proud of what you create, just like you said, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, because again, it took me a long time to learn that myself. I'm speaking from a place of having gone through that, you know, not to say it was like, it's just like little things you pick up along the way, that little gems of life kind of just pick up and you take it with you and pass it along and so on and so forth. And that's just one of the things I've kind of picked up along the way, you know, in regards to like, yeah, I mean, even now I'll make something. I have spurts of moments where I'll maybe go a few days without making anything, and then I'll make a few things in one day. But I have so many more projects in my computer that are unfinished than been finished, and that's okay, you know, basically. Okay. And because the right ones always find. I'm really learning to just trust the universe in a sense, but also trust my ear, because it's not like just random, you know. Obviously I'm doing something that's getting people's attention, like that are picking these specific beats. But basically when I'm making something, I guess to go all the way back to what we were talking about, when I'm making something, I always have a general direction of what I'm going for, the theme of it, specific artists. It could be someone like, I'm going to make a beat for Chris Brown, knowing that I can't necessarily call him, but it's just having that general direction of that gives me direction. And so we'll get there. Okay, so the day before I went out, and that's why I remember the story. But I went out, and I don't know, just went out. But I basically I was hungover the next day, super hungover. Had a great time, but I had a sense of I guess you can say maybe a little depression, I guess, in a sense, whatever that term is, when you are hungover and like you're feeling down. You know, a lot of people that I would say use like other types of drugs, like have these feelings of like the down. Okay, but anyways, it was basically in that moment I was hungover, and just 12 hours prior life was great, right? And now I'm just having this overwhelming sense of like regret, or like not being focused, I guess you can say. Just letting a little like, it wasn't even like a mistake. It's I went out. You know, it's like no harm was done other than the harm that was done to myself. But it was just feeling like disappointed, essentially. So that was kind of like the feeling of where the sound came from, right? So that's why the song is in minor. It's like a little bit sadder. And then once I started playing the chords, it had like the first chord, I believe, is like a E major 13, which is like a it's a gospel chord, basically.
Okay.
And then that's basically kind of once I started playing the chords to invoke those feelings I'm telling you about, then it started taking a direction of like a gospel song or like a gospel feel. And that's basically where it started. There was no like specific song. I just knew that I wanted Lamarco. Well, no, I take that back. So I made the song, and whatever, a few weeks go by, and then me and Lamarco are simultaneously working on the album. He comes over one day, I show him the track, and that's really where it pretty much came together, I would say. So the general idea was always there. I had laid down the chords, like I said, in this moment where I was feeling kind of down. And it all ties into, because the song is kind of about that.
Yes.
But basically, I did the general beat, and the core of the song was there. And whatever I just put it to the side. I don't remember. Honestly, it wasn't even intended to go to Lamarco. It was just one of those things where he came over, and what always happens, I'll be like, hey, can I play you something? And boom, it's like, you know. So that was one of the tracks I showed him when I was here, when he came over during the album, when we were doing the No Friends album. I quickly gave him a backstory about what I just told you about how I'm feeling. He does his, and this is the great thing about Lamarco, because this is why we work so well together, and this is why I cherish having that producer-artist relationship, because one person can have the core idea or a foundation of something, and the next person just like carries it and just takes it, or vice versa. And you know, and those are the best relationships, right? Where creatively, like you can give someone where you're coming from, what I just told you about how I'm feeling, blah blah blah. This is how I was feeling, and then now I can present it to someone like Lamarco, who again we've been working together since high school. So of course we have that really, you know, superb chemistry. But I can basically briefly explain to him, that's what I told you, and he can almost instantaneously, because he writes on the spot, instantaneously just turn around and make a song in regards to what I just told you, and then still find a way to tie it in with his own life. And so, because again, even though I do know the song was inspired from the things that I was telling him at the time, and about feeling kind of hopeless, I guess you can say, he also obviously could relate to that message, because he's also here in New York City as an artist that's, you know, continuously trying to find his way into a career, or you know, a bigger career, I should say. So we're all striving for something bigger, and he was able to basically take that emotion and really kind of make it something inspiring, I guess you can say. So that's the gist of it. I mean, I really can't take credit for the words, because that's Lamarco. That's what he does best, is I can briefly explain an idea to him, and he can take it and make it into a song, and make it relatable, and then also make it to where it really is a feel good song. It really, for me, it's like a medicine that I can come back to. For me, that in itself is fun, because I can just come back to it once a month, once every few weeks, and kind of really kind of just feel at ease again. But also it's great knowing that as time goes on and more people are able to hear it, hopefully can have that same kind of outcome for someone else. And I guess ultimately that's what all of our goals are when it comes to like being musicians, right? We just want to we just want to be heard essentially and hopefully relate. And that song is really, yeah, just an ode to not much different than what we've already been talking about, but staying focused, and this is why I chose the song because again, it's not far off from what we just spoke about with the Kanye song. You know, oh, by the way, the song has definitely a gospel element to it. One intentional thing I want to point out that I was like, this is like nerdy, but for me it was always like exciting. I always want to do a song in 3/4 time signature. So dun 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 dun. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. Most songs are in 4/4. I always wanted to have a song in my discography that was in 3/4 and other various time signatures, and so that song I was able to kick off in 3/4. 3/4 is not like completely. I think out of all Billboard songs, I think only like 5% are in 3/4, but so it's not common. But I just want I like making songs that are like or doing music that's kind of like out of the normal boundaries. 3/4 is nothing groundbreaking, but I always want to do it. What makes me excited, and that was like just something I want to point out. But you know, like the waltz, you know, like a lot of the old, you know, music our parents would listen to. Yeah, so that song is in 3/4, and that was definitely something. Oh, and just some other nerdy stuff. If you listen to the song, you'll notice there's no harmonies in the whole song until the very end, and that was completely intentional. That was very intentional because Lamarco's a very he grew up in the church. He's a very gospel influenced artist. Naturally, gospel artists want to do like big harmonies and want to like have you know like a choir kind of sound. But I was like, actually going back to Kanye. If you didn't know this already, fun fact. Kanye, Eminem, Drake, they use, have you ever noticed that all of their vocals are single track? They don't use doubles.
Yeah.
Eminem doesn't use doubles.
Kanye I definitely know Eminem doesn't.
Drake kind of here and there, given on the songs. But Kanye doesn't use doubles. He just uses one lead track. He's just rapping. And then, you know, even he doesn't use ad-libs, believe it or not. Eminem doesn't really use ad-libs either. Maybe Slim Shady, right? Used ad-libs. Right. But Eminem, not so much. Lil Wayne, same thing, doesn't use doubles. I don't know. It's just a fun fact. But to get there, it's just a single track. And my whole point is a lot of songs that are very impactful use single track. We can go down the list as far as like various genres. But
no, that's a really interesting point.
So that was just something I wanted to like make very clear as before we started recording. I'm like, this should be single track because it's more impactful, and I want people to hear this. And I think it worked basically because I think it worked because there's a lot of emotion, especially like on the second verse and things like that. And I think when you do doubles, it can sometimes take away from that lead vocal. You don't hear it as much, right? Because now you're hearing another. It's all, you know, whatever your preference is at the end of the day.
Yeah, but, I mean, there's a technical aspect to it, you know, but
I think thought it had a little bit more impact, and I just wanted to highlight that because the song is called "Get There," and obviously the message is important.
Yeah, hey, so I appreciate that background on "Get There." You know, and again, shout out to Lamarco Smith. If you haven't heard anything from him, please follow the links. I'll make sure to post them. I shared this with you when I first like really took a listen to it. Like anything you drop, I'm gonna listen to. I'm gonna support. I'm gonna like. You know, but when you put this song into my purview, I was kind of blown away. And like you hit on everything that I would have said about the song, which is there's definitely a gospel element to it. The fact that there's a bit of like it starts on like a down note, and Lamarco's energy is just crazy positive. He just brings a lot of life to what he does. And again, like I think, you know, from a producer standpoint, that speaks to your ability to provide somebody a canvas to paint on, right? So, shout out to you for bringing that together. And then, of course, the transitions and the beat are crazy. But as a person who loves rhymes and loves words, I'm gonna just read a few of the lyrics that were in there that really stuck out to me, and just see if we can tie them back to some other things that we talked about earlier.
Sure.
I think Lamarco's first line is, "You don't hear the train when it's at the end of the line," and I was like, "Yo, that's crazy, right?" Because as for one, that's a real strong way to start. But as a person who's you know doesn't have it figured out, but is pursuing their goal, right? Like, if you get off of the train, you're not gonna be present when it reaches the destination, right?
Right.
So that was a crazy bar to me. Like, you don't hear the train at the end of the line.
Right.
And then he says, you find yourself at a standstill, and you just stand still and allow yourself to feel. If you find yourself at a standstill, stand still and allow yourself to feel. And I just thought that was really dope because of the bringing the presence to it all, right?
Exactly.
Is you're not always going to be, like you said, you're not always going to be where you want to be, but feel that, like experience that. And it almost sounds like that's what you were dealing with in that moment. Can you tell me how that line relates to to you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to really kind of like, it's like being self-aware, constantly finding ways to like reflect on
Mm-hmm.
things you feel and why you feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I do actually embrace, I would say, daily.
Mm-hmm.
Standing still, allowing yourself to heal, really kind of trying to be present, soaking in, positivity, right? That's like always where you want to kind of start your day with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for me, it's just reflection. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
And reflection is something that I've been taking seriously, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Really recently, like in the last year, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just things I've been being self-aware of since, like making this song, since COVID, like I said. A lot of the turning points, a lot of the recent turning points in my life, like I said, have been during COVID. And although it does feel like a long time ago now, kind of like looking back, like remember back in COVID, and it's like it kind of like 4 years ago now, right? So,
Yeah.
but there was for me, a lot of, I would say, the most recent turning points in my life, have been within the last 3 years. And in regards to get there, that was a very therapeutic, piece of my life, but also just something I carry with. I'm able to come back to, like I said, every once in a while, every few weeks. But yeah, just reflection. I think allowing yourself to heal, soaking it in. Yeah.
No, that's really crazy, right? Because, well, I think that's great, right? Because you talk about, like, you move, you're dealing with the pandemic, you lose your job, you decide to go in on this music, there's all these different things happening, and then to be able to just take a moment and say, oh man, this is where I'm at. I had a really good time last night, but I don't feel aligned right now. And then being able to make some new moves, man. I think that's really, really powerful.
Exactly. And it's nothing like, it's such a kind of maybe small thing for some people, you just went out, but it was more so how I felt the next day in regards to like physically, right? That is why I felt the way I felt. It's like you could have still, enjoyed yourself, but now you're feeling physically ill, and that's now detracting you from, for example, some people, you may not be able to get out of bed. You may feel sluggish for the next 3 days, and that impacts your work. That impacts my work. And that impacts my creativity. I think, what is it? The next line, you allow yourself to feel, because that's when you become aware, and you'll see how to get there. But that to me is also important, because that's also important because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, you are being present, you're reflecting, you're allowing yourself time. That's the key word here. You're allowing yourself
Mm-hmm.
time to make your next move.
Yeah.
Decisions are so much better made when they're thought out, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're all moving. And yeah, I mean, that line in itself, those few lines, I guess, is, I think, for me, about being present
Mm-hmm.
and finding ways to reflect, to
Yeah.
talk to.
You know, you made a great point. You know, decisions are made when there's time, and giving yourself that time, right? They're better in that moment, but also giving yourself that grace, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna always be where I want to be, and that's okay as long as I'm working towards the thing. And I think what that the chorus, the overarching idea of the song is in the song, right? You ain't never gonna get there until you get there, so you gotta get there.
Right.
That's crazy. Like it's you know, like from a writing standpoint, I'm writing it and I'm like, I'm never gonna get there, right? And
Right. So
but
this is like, funny enough. Sorry to cut you off, but
no,
funny
it's all
enough.
good.
Again, I cannot take. I didn't write the song. He wrote the song for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we were here together, and when he wrote, I would say the most pieces, and it was funny because we were basically having just random discussions, like me and you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say most of my sessions go like that. You're just talking. You're just kind of exploring ideas and just speaking about things. And if you, the way you read that line right now, you ain't ever gonna get there till you get there. So you got it. It's that line kind of came up from, like, think about your friend telling you that, like, you ain't ever
Mm-hmm.
gonna get there till you get there. So you might as well get there. You know, like
Hey.
that's kind of like that was kind of like I want to say the inspiration behind that line, because me and him were talking about
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about, various topics
Mm-hmm.
of finding yourself, being self-aware, managing this path of being an artist and a creative. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's different from other career paths. And
Yeah.
one of the lines, not verbatim, but I know one of the things we were talking about is like, yo, like, you're not gonna, like, you gotta just do it, like, kind of like, that's kind of where it was coming from, like, you just do
Mm-hmm.
it type of thing. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where that chorus then came from, is it's like a just do it, or like you and your
Yeah.
friends talking about some things you're gonna do, and then someone's like, well, you ain't ever gonna get there till you get there, so you might as well just get there. Like, it could
Yeah.
be almost comedic. Obviously the message is deep, from a
Yeah.
place of, like, finding yourself, but I think there's also like a
Mm-hmm.
comedic, at least, and this is coming from me because I was with Lamarco and we were obviously just laughing and having a conversation. But to skip, not to like skip or anything, but obviously, towards the end of the song, there's a brief period of me and him talking,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a brief period, like brief, where you can just hear our voices in the back. That's me and
Mm-hmm.
him talking, and we had, essentially, it was my idea to just have the phone recording a conversation that we were having, and we had like a
Mm-hmm.
long conversation, but in that 20-minute conversation, I probably just took out like 30 seconds of it and put that in the song. But yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of the ideas of those songs and what we're talking about, the lyrics right now, were
Mm-hmm.
coming from a place of conversation, essentially.
Yeah.
And
No,
like,
so you
able to put it all together in like a wizard.
yeah, no, you talk about that line being, somewhat comedic, and I think where the irony of it is, right, is some of the most complicated things in our mind are really quite simple. And
Right.
that line is, like you said, there's depth to it, but it's also like, it's not that hard. Like
Right.
if you need money, go make money. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
and,
exactly it.
and
That's
so
where it's
like
coming
we look at, yeah, and we look at some of those things and we say, if it was that easy, then I would just do it. And it's like, well, but if you're not doing anything, then then what are we talking
from.
about?
Right.
And so that's why I really like that line, because it does have depth, but it's also very simple, and
Right.
in its simplicity, there's a beauty there, man. And so shout out to Lamarco, but shout out to again, you as a producer, providing an opportunity for that part of the artist to come out, right?
Yeah.
And I think another piece, this is a great segue to talk about the next song, which is, you talked about the feelings after going out, how it led to get there as a thing you created. But the third song that you brought up are swimming pools.
Is there?
Can you hear me?
I do hear you, yes.
Okay, all right. So why swimming pools? What about Kendrick Lamar's swimming pools? Is something you wanted to highlight?
Oh, what about the song?
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, again, this is it's that's a darker song for sure in its actual meaning of the song, but essentially it's a song of addiction. I look at it as a song of addiction, but also as a song of distraction. I look at addiction as distractions, right? Addictions because some people may have more than one, thing that you're, addicted to, let's say. But they're just ultimately distractions.
Yeah.
And that song in itself is pretty much an ode to being around that environment, growing up in that environment, and finding, ways to, still be present and, and socially, but not, but then also, in life, sometimes you may feel temptations. To me, it's a song about, well, it's a song about addiction for sure, but to me, it's more meaningful because it's kind of plays in part with like distractions and falling into temptation. And I think those two are more, I think, something I can relate to on a heavier level, as far as just as far as just, again, briefly being distracted by things, whether it's people, whether it's a person, whether it's vices such as drinking, smoking, whatever the case is. Other vices, I mean, there's a lot of things you can be addicted to, right? But to me, it's more speaking on that. And as someone who has and does deal with those things, it's again, it's just something that I come back to every now and then, because an artist as big as Kendrick, only Kendrick really, can create a song that's about alcoholism and still have people dancing in the club, getting drunk to it. So that itself is
wild.
It's wild. But the song
Yeah.
itself, it's like literally about alcoholism, and for me, it's not something I keep like super hidden, obviously, because I'm talking about it. But like I do have like a sense of self-awareness where, like, I try to, at least. I like to go out, I like to drink, I like to have fun. But I grew up around that environment, and I seen the negative effects that it can have on friends, family. A lot of us, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. But I know for me, in my close knit family, because I grew up, well, growing up, I was close to my family, like close in the sense of we would see each other often. I would grow up, growing up with cousins, growing up with aunts and uncles, and my dad had a lot of brothers and sisters, so naturally I had like a lot of cousins in my mom's side, and one thing that was always prevalent in either side of my family was drugs and drinking. So I was around that at an early age, and I just seen, things that we were already aware of, but like just the negative effects of what addiction and long-term abuse can cause. And so for me, from an early age, again, and even if you watch the music video, I mean, even Kendrick, his first line is talking about his granddaddy, having the flask, because it goes back generations, that's probably, you can have a whole episode on that generational, addictions, if you will.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, I mean, I think I chose the song because it is something that I'm, constantly mentally battling, I guess, maybe, in a sense you can say, in my head. It's something that I'm, that I try to always stay aware of, because, again, as someone who has grew up around it and has experienced times in my life where I did myself go in those paths, it's something I have to remind myself of constantly, because most addicts know, but once an addict, always an addict. And there's, at least I do believe there's truth in that. So for me, what helps me is constantly finding ways to remind myself of why I choose to maybe not drink or choose not to go out on certain occasions, because it's the long term damage that creates for me. It's the long term guilt that for me is like something I try to avoid. And again, using my past as a reminder,
Yeah.
and using this song or songs or writing songs, or art or music in general as an outlet is what keeps me focused. And I have to remind myself, again, going back to the song, Kendrick song, I do find myself listening to it maybe once every few weeks, coming around to it, like in a rotation of like yearly rotation, it always comes back around. Because again, it's just another way of reminding myself of just things that that I value in my life and things that I'm focused on. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's I mean, for one, thank you for sharing. It's never easy. Identifying our flaws, our challenges, our weaknesses. And so to be willing to do it in a way that is, very public or potentially very public, I think is very commendable. And I'll say that, like, as somebody who has I would say had a successful thus far um, run with sobriety, that it's always great to get that kind of support and whatnot. And I'll ask you some more questions in a second, but just wanted to share, for anybody listening who may be struggling with addiction, there are resources out there. And one thing is, you gotta allow yourself grace, right? And I said that before, but shame and guilt is something that is accompanied by addiction, and giving into those urges. It happens, but if you beat yourself up for it, it happens more likely. Um, and not everybody's able to do it cold turkey, right? So I'll say that one thing that was really helpful, no, that is really helpful for me is I struggled with alcoholism for a long time. One thing that was super helpful for me was I came across maybe an article or interview with Royce the 5'9", and Royce, who I happened to be like really bumping at that time because he was with Bad Meets Evil with Eminem, and that was a crazy album. But he said, they're like, hey, you were an alcoholic. And he's like, I wasn't an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic, but I don't drink anymore.
Right.
And they were like, can you explain that? He goes, yeah, like I'm always going to have that relationship with alcohol. And I have to understand that. And the moment I feel like I'm above that is the moment that I regress, and, or something of that nature, right? Forgive me if I misinterpreted it or misrepresented it. But, that's kind of one of those things that I, like you said, a reminder that I have in my head often is, no matter. Right now, I had a friend over recently, and they brought over some beer, and the beer is still in my fridge. And I look at it like, oh man, a beer would be great right now, but I'm like, nope, because, like as soon as I give into that, there's a whole bunch of things that come with it that, I'm not willing to feed into, but I do have to understand that once I do that, the likelihood of me being able to just stop is very low, because I'm an alcoholic who just doesn't drink currently,
Right.
And that keeps me present. Is like, I currently don't do this, right? And as long as I can currently not do this, I'm not putting on any pressure to say I will never ever drink again, because the moment I do, if I do, then that level of guilt is going to be crushing, and I might drive back to it. So I'm just sharing that, man. But as far as swimming pools for you, are there any lines that really stick out to you or resonate with you as far as So insofar as alcohol and just your distractions and your vices, you mentioned earlier that you create differently, or it affects your creativity. Can you kind of go into details on how different vices affect you and, how you prefer to create?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, definitely, definitely different things have definitely affected me differently. I will say, I mean, there's a time and place for different things. Don't get me wrong. Um, I guess for me, I prefer to stay sober. Um, if anything,
Mhm.
bringing outside sources into my creative process never really makes me
Mhm.
better. So that's probably
Mhm.
a good thing. So I'm happy about that. Like I wouldn't want to rely on, alcohol or like weed or whatever to do
Mhm.
better. But just in regards to just how people work, I mean, yeah, I mean, smoking is fairly normal. I'll either participate or not. But that I wouldn't say doesn't negatively. I don't think it really does anything positively either, if that makes any sense. When I feel
Yeah.
like I work best when I'm sober. I work best when I'm um, happy,
Mhm.
outside of music and stuff, just having a good day,
Mhm.
um, having good health, feeling good. But for me, because when I feel good, you say I exercise, I work out in the morning. That
Mhm.
naturally gets the brain going. I have more ideas, and because I'm, have a good start of the day with a good workout, I'm now confident about these ideas. Um,
Mhm.
so for me, my best work comes from just being focused and staying disciplined.
Mhm.
Again, time and place. I record a lot at night. I'm always. I mean, don't get me wrong. Turning up and drinking and things like that. Recording is a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There are certain moments where that can even be justified.
Mhm.
Especially if it's like feel good songs or some kind of party song or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, or even just celebrating in regards to making a good song. I think sometimes that can be fun
Mhm.
as well. But for
Yeah.
me, yeah, to answer your question, I mean, yeah, I don't know if any vices are gonna particularly make me anything. If anything, it has the opposite effect, where if I drink too much, I don't want
Yeah.
to do music. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
I guess ideally for me, nothing is the ideal situation. Um, all my best music has came from that, I would say.
No, that's actually really dope, man, because no, so I think that's really dope, and I'm glad that you're able to touch on that, right? Because you said a few things. Number one, getting a good workout. Your the confidence that that brings. Your life outside of that moment in the studio, being on par and good, all plays in to having a good state of mind, and then being able to off from that good, state or pool of energy, and then put something awesome down. Granted, there are times, like you said, time and place where feeling down and creating when you're not in a great place is appropriate and is going to make the best thing. And people are going to feel that. But in general, like when you're at a net positive, if you would, that's when your best work is created, and of course, clear mind. I think that's really important for um, I would say like a young creator when I was, doing the thing, that would have been great for me to have a real good feeling about is not feeling like I needed anything extra to be my best. Cause now I know like
Yeah,
staring at the paper for 6 hours trying to figure out how to end a rhyme with cat is not the most productive use of
right.
time. Um, and having a clear mind
Uh,
is important in that.
sure, definitely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man. So look, I appreciate that. And it was a great conversation. I appreciate you having made the time to connect with me. Especially, I know we're on a 3 hour time difference, and it's probably technically early where you're at. So I appreciate you taking the night and just
Yep,
doing this
yep,
podcast and being a guest, sharing so
absolutely.
much. If you would, please let the people know anything that you want them to know, and please leave your socials so that the people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. Great format. I really Well, I'm gonna be back on here. That's all I'm gonna say. So I was gonna ask to be back on here. I'm gonna just say
Yeah,
I'm gonna be back.
bet.
We'll work it out. But I like where this is going. Um, yeah, man, that's props to you. Like I told you, really, really inspiring and always amazing to see people that I know that I grew. I can say I don't want to say I grew up with you, but we go back,
Go
and
back.
we go back. I can name. You know how many people I can name that I still talk to in high school? Like one hand,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, one hand. You know what I mean? So yeah, shout out to you because like
Thank you.
just having these conversations is obviously we can do this probably multiple times like if we wanted and just chat it up, but like
Yeah.
really proud of you basically is what I'm saying. And
Thank you.
always happy to be a part of whatever it is you're doing, and just know it's inspiring me too. So that's all I wanted to point that out. Oh, outro. So basically, I'm A.Go. So hit me up. All my socials are produced by A.Go. So that's just one word. All the links hopefully will be showing and all that via editing magic. But produced
Yeah,
by
yeah.
A.Go, produced by A.Go, all one word. Instagram is my main source of content. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitter. I'm always looking for dope artists to work with. New
Mhm.
York, not New York, not America. I don't care if you're dope. Like I'm always open to working with new artists, and I love I thrive off of like hearing something or hearing someone that's ultimately striving what I'm trying to do. Striving for something better. Like it's contagious. So
Mm.
yeah, all my music. I got links on my Instagram and stuff. Hopefully, all that will be showing as well on here. And check me out. Basically, I got a bunch of new albums I'm working on. I'm working on a new album with Lamar. We got about 15
Mhm.
songs that should be coming out in the next 2-3. Well, I'm gonna say next month actually. Got another
Okay.
album. I got about 3 albums I'm working on, an EP, and a various amount of singles. And I've been doing a lot of mixing work too lately.
Mhm.
So anyone needs mixing, recording, hit me up. I do. I offer a variety of services.
Mhm.
But yeah, always, staying. I'm in New York and really in this for the long run. So
There we go.
hopefully when people like start watching this and you get those thousands and millions of views, hopefully by then, I'm already, far, already far along my career where this interview then
Yeah.
becomes like a pivotal moment. Like, ah, shit, like, this was before he blew up. You know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah. Yeah, no, that'd
Anyways,
be dope, man. Hey, please, if you are an aspiring artist or you're an established artist, and you're looking to have a dope creator, making some beats and providing some creative inspiration, please hit up Produced by A.Go. I know you've got some great artists. Don't be afraid to shout them out. Drop their links too, so people can find them as well. We'll make
always.
sure that Lamarco's linked in too.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll definitely revisit. And I'm just again so happy to have you on.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Share this with your networks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll be sending you a care package for rhymes that resonates, man. So appreciate you, and we'll connect again.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Freedom. Tell me why they try to take my back, but this the boss, so I'll never fall. No way in hell you can take my back. Fall on my side, never rely on my back. Don't the game on my shoulders, rely on my back. I get no rest, I can't sleep. Heart of a champion, I can't